All right, here now a senator whose state is within range of North Korean missiles, Alaska Senator Dan Sullivan. He also sits on the Armed Services Committee. And, sir, I wonder if you could tell me about what you hear from citizens back in your state. And if, I think you might be there now, but or maybe you're in D.C., but I showed that poll from CBS that, you know, people across America are concerned. What's the level of concern in Alaska?
Well, Dana, there's concern like all Americans, but, you know, there's also pride. Alaska is the cornerstone of our nation's missile defense, and yep. I have a bill to bolster our missile defense, but right now there's Alaskans 24/7. Our 49th Missile Defense Battalion is literally protecting the country because that's where the missiles and our sensors to shoot down any missile coming from Kim Jong-un to America. The Alaskan Guard unit there calls themselves the 300, protecting the 300 million, and so that's what they're doing right now, protecting us.
What would your legislation do, and do you have bipartisan support?
Yes, strong bipartisan support. We have 27 Democrats and Republican senators right now. It would increase the number of ground-based missile interceptors. It would integrate our forward theater missile defense like THAAD and Aegis with the homeland missile defense, and it would encourage much more testing. We've seen some real positive tests, but we need to do more on missile defense. Any strategy we have right now needs to be including more robust missile defense for the homeland.
And so I think all of that sounds well and good, but how soon do you need to do that? I mean, the Congress won't be back for a while. I mean, is this something that needs to be on the fast track?
Oh, I think so. This is already part of the National Defense Authorization Act, and so I'm very confident that my bill will be passed in the fall when Congress comes back in September.
But are you concerned that something could happen in the meantime before we have that? I mean, I guess there's really nothing you can do. You can try to get that legislation passed, but it seems like the urgency has been ratcheted up, and I wonder if the administration and the White House could actually do anything without congressional support that would bolster these defenses.
Well, look, there's a lot they can do, but the broader point is I believe that, you know, effective diplomacy requires credible military options, and you're seeing effective diplomacy right now. I applaud Ambassador Haley, Secretary Tillerson for what they did in the UN this past weekend. But if one of the military options that the administration is looking at is a preemptive war on the Korean Peninsula launched by the United States, that would require the authorization of Congress. Article 1 of the U.S. Constitution is very clear about that.
Well, I wanted to ask you about that. So I understand that the Congress would say, Mr. President, you need to come to us first. But if we're in a situation where we don't have time to have a debate at the Congress and for a bill to be signed and all the rest, I mean, what are the options at that point?
Well, look, I mean, you guys were talking about a launch by North Korea. Say you were talking about at Guam. Well, we have a missile defense unit, a THAAD unit at Guam. Obviously, as the commander-in-chief, the president can react to attacks on the country in a way that he has broader authority on that. I was mentioning the discussions of a preemptive war on the peninsula. That clearly goes in the realm of the authorization of Congress.
Is there any talk about having that discussion sooner than later on the Hill?
Well, look, I've raised this with a number of administration officials, and I don't think none of them have pushed back on it. I think that one of the things that the president and his team have done very well in terms of their diplomacy up to this point, Dana, is they have included the Congress. And I think there's a lot of bipartisan support for what the Trump administration is doing, particularly on the sanctions, both at the UN. You may have seen we passed sanctions just 2 weeks ago, very bipartisan there. So right now the administration is working closely with the Congress, and I think they need to continue to do that. But we're supportive of their diplomatic efforts right now.
All right. Senator Dan Sullivan, thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you.